Hello, in this video we're going to look at another little update. As I mentioned, over the last month and a half, I've worked on quite a few different features, and one of them was the weapon imbues. So I've added one weapon imbue for now, which is the flaming weapons, but it shouldn't take me too long to add new ones, right? So for example, frosted weapons or lightning weapons. So I tried to create a bit of a system behind weapon imbues. So essentially there's going to be different types of weapon imbues, so primary weapon imbue, secondary, and I think it's trinary weapon imbues. So I'm trying to create a system, a scalable system behind it. So for example, a primary weapon imbue, this is just sort of damage which gets applied onto your weapon hits. The secondary imbue will provide a status effect which gets applied onto the enemy. And the trinary, this is more of perhaps enchantment of the weapon, so it just increases the stats for the wielder, right? So that's kind of the intention behind these status effects. So perhaps I'll begin with a quick demo and then we'll discuss what that looks like. Okay, so let's go ahead and start up the client. So I'll go ahead and log into one of the characters here and another one there. All right. Okay, so maybe we'll just have this guy come in front of this one, so we'll be able to see that things are fully replicated. I'll also just turn the screen over here. All right, so basically there's my flaming weapons over here. So when I activate it, it's going to add a new status effect onto the character. And what the status effect does, it will envelop my sword on fire. So you can see that it's on fire on both of the screens. So if I just activate it again, there's the little status effect icon, so that should be replicated here as well. Okay, there's a small bug I'll need to look at fixing. And essentially what that will do is it will add some fire damage onto the weapon. Right, so for example, if I'll go ahead and hit this guy now, it's only doing just physical damage, right? So I'll just go ahead and heal himself again. Oops. And if I turn my weapon with fire, I'll go ahead and give him another smack. You can see that it does a lot of damage to begin with. It also adds a status effect, which will further burn the target, right? So that's basically how the weapon imbues will work, right? So there's two types of status effects added. One of them is the primary, which just simply adds some fire damage onto the initial hit. And the second one is it will add a status effect, which will then further burn the target. So again, without the status effect, just normal damage. And when I activate the fire, and then I'll give it another hit, you can see it will add the burning damage. So the way I control this is through the Java server. So all of the logic is actually handled by the Java server. So in terms of the client, it's very lightweight. And we can have a look at that now as well. Okay, so let's open this up. So this is my flaming weapons definition. So you'll be able to see that it'll be quite easy for me to modify the way this works in the background, right? So a lot of it is config driven, but then I'm also able to give it custom functionality here with like this override function of end skill. So you'll be able to see that I'm adding two types of imbue effects onto the flaming weapons. So the primary imbue simply says do some fire damage. And at the moment, I've just put it as tick damage, mainly because I didn't want it to be too powerful, right? Otherwise, I'll just one-shot my character. So I'll need to obviously work on the scaling. But this is where it will do the initial damage. So this is going to be effectively much higher in the future. And then I'm also going to say for the secondary imbue, it's going to be a fire damage, so it's going to be applying a burning effect. So this is handled through a separate function. And again, in terms of how much burning damage, it's going to be 30 damage per tick, right? So that's how I'm able to sort of evaluate both of the statuses. So when I create frosted weapons, for example, the primary imbue will do a set of frosted damage. And then the secondary imbue would actually be a slow effect. So it's not going to be doing damage over time with frosted weapons, but rather it will slow the target. And with lightning weapons, quite similarly, you're going to have the primary imbue doing some lightning damage, but then the secondary would perhaps lower the target's resistances, right? So either magic resistances or perhaps armor. So I'll have a think of those as well. But ultimately, that's sort of the intention behind these imbues, right? So there's going to be three types: primary, secondary, and the trinary. This is more for enchantment, so I'm going to be applying those separately. And then if we go into our Unreal Engine implementation, you'll see that this is quite light essentially. So I've got both the skill and the status. So in terms of the skill, actually it basically does nothing. Everything is handled by the skill base class, which requests the activation of the skill. And in terms of my status effect, the only real thing I needed to do with the status is spawn the emitter. So whenever I get the skill activated, or rather the status activated, I need to go ahead and spawn the emitter onto my weapon. So that's what you'll be able to see here. So it just had to work out which emitter to spawn. And likewise, when you deactivate the status, you just destroy that emitter from the weapon. So that's how this works. So really quite simple implementation on the client side, and the bulk of the work is actually handled by the server. So I think that's it for this video. So a relatively short one. So it's the introduction of imbue effects. So like I say, at the moment, I've just got the flaming weapons, but I'll look to add both the frosted and the lightning ones quite soon. So yeah, thanks and see you next time. Bye.